There was a chalkboard in the whole Hogan plant at Pafford. It was funny because the area in which they built the clubs for all the tour players was called a model shop, and that's what we always called it. And there was a chalkboard up there that had all of Hogan's specs on it,
Mhm.
and so that's where that chart came from. So yeah, that's what Gene Sheely and Ronnie McGraw built all his clubs off of. The one thing that's missing in that chart and I was talking to somebody, I guess, a few weeks ago. He was talking about how was Hogan able to be so successful in that one trip to the British. And I told him it was really pretty easy conversation. I mean, we had talked about it, many times in the past. But if you look at the Hogan clubs that he played, there was no bounce on those clubs because he was so shallow. And so, in the way I would describe it to you is that if you've got let's say a 9 iron, the traditional concept of bounce on a 9 iron is it's going to have 9 degrees bounce. Okay, your 8 iron's going to have 8 degrees of bounce. Your 7 iron's going to have 7 degrees of bounce. Okay, that's just the way manufacturers have done it. Well, that's not the way Hogan's clubs were. Hogan's clubs were built that the 9 iron might have 4 degrees of bounce or 3 degrees of bounce. They were very flat. He didn't need the bounce because he never went steep into the ball. He was always shallow. So he compressed the ball from a shallow position instead of a steep position. And so he never needed bounce. So when he went over there and played, other guys coming from here or guys there had bounce on their clubs because they didn't understand what bounce really meant. And so he didn't struggle with that because he never had the bounce to deal with. And so that's another part of that equation. I mean, it really matters. I mean, every good player.
I agree because, and here, I mean, I've said something. That you couldn't imagine how difficult it was for him to win at Carnoustie, right? Because I imagine he played by eye, roughly.
They didn't have any. They didn't have.
The flags at Carnoustie were a lot shorter than the U.S. And they played that 1.62 ball, so he had to play that smaller ball into flags that were shorter. Then he must, and he sees post accident. He wasn't getting along with the caddy.
The one thing that I would tell you that maybe people miss in a conversation when you have his level of talent is that when Hogan hit balls, he hit balls through what he called the windows in the air.
Sky, yeah.
Yeah, in the sky. And so he controlled all of the distance from the trajectory. So he could hit let's say he's hitting a 7 iron. If he wanted a 7 iron to go a certain distance, he would either hit it higher or lower. And the trajectory was what told him what the yardage was going to be. And that's the proper way of play. So if you can control the trajectory, you can, if a guy says, hey, you need to be 145, pins 148, and you know that if you hit it at this trajectory, you're going to get 145. And so he was way ahead of the timeline, understanding how to play that. And so there's a lot to that.